The new year is rolling around, all of the lists are coming through, all of the New Year's resolutions, and I'm so excited to be sharing mine with you all today because there is so much to share, so much to talk about. Let's get into it. Hello book reading friends, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name is Mel, and today I bring you guys a video that I love making. I know, I've only done this once. I've only done it for last year because I've only been on BookTube for a little over a year. However, I love all things planning. I love making lists. I love organizing. It makes my heart sing. It makes me so happy, and so there is nothing more rewarding, even though they may not play out the way that we expect them to. There is nothing more rewarding than goal setting for me, for my life, for my work, for reading, whatever it is. And so today I bring you guys a super exciting video, at least for me, and that is my 2022 reading goals. And you can feel free to share all of yours down in the comments because I love to see what other people are doing in terms of goals for the coming year. I also might take some of those and incorporate them into my goal list, and you can take some of these and maybe incorporate them in your list. But I just want 2022 to feel a lot better, I guess, than what the second half of the year has felt like. And this is something that I obviously don't talk a lot about. The second half of the year has been incredibly overwhelming in so many different areas of my life, and I am trying to get my grip back on reality and planning and organizing. And I guess you guys obviously don't get to see it because I show myself as a very organized person, maybe, hopefully. Also a little bit chaotic, but that's fine. But I am here to try and get my thoughts on my life together with reading. So I hope you guys will love this one. Again, feel free to share down in the comments, and let's get into all of my 2022 reading goals. So I hope you guys are ready for a super chill video. It's funny because I was watching back my 2021 reading goals video, and it's funny to see all of the things that I did accomplish and all of the things I did not. But for 2022, I have a refresh and I have a completely different set of goals. So for goal number one, I have be more mindful with my reading. Now, for this year, it's interesting because people always ask me, you guys always ask me, do you ever feel pressured to read because you're a booktuber? And this is interesting in the sense that you guys never pressure me to read. Nobody else outside of my brain pressures me to read. But personally, for the longest time, I had this super wrong idea that if I didn't read, I couldn't make videos, because what else would I make videos of if I wasn't reading? And then I kind of went on this rabbit hole of, no, Mel, there's so much you could film even if you're not reading. You can film a sit-down video, you could film a deep dive of a particular trope or subject. There's just so much goodness to be done, so much content to be filmed that doesn't require you to read 20 books a month. Also, 20 books a month for me feels very unrealistic, and there was a big part of 2021 where I felt like I needed to read 18 books a month, where I felt like I needed to read all of these books in such big quantities in order to bring you guys good wrap-ups and good discussions. And at the end of the day, it's not only unrealistic, but it's also added pressure that, again, nobody else was providing but me. I also think BookTube as a space is interesting because, and this again is solely a personal thing, but I know a lot of you guys can relate. I've talked about this with my patrons countless of times, where sometimes we see all of these booktubers, all of these content creators, even outside of the BookTube sphere, and we see people read so many books a month, and you see these crazy wrap-ups of, I read 40 books this month, or I read 60 books this month, and that's fantastic. I love that people get to read that much, but then it also makes a lot of people feel inadequate, and it's such an indirect reaction because it's not purposeful to make people feel that way. But I think unknowing to a lot of creators, it adds the pressure for the reader, and it makes people feel like, damn, I only read 2 books this month, or I only read 1, or I couldn't even read this month, and that's completely fine. And so with all of those pressures or all of those sceneries happening around us, around me, not only as a content creator but also as a reader, again, I found myself pressured by nobody else but myself. And so I'm trying constantly to get out of that bubble of, oh my god, I need to be reading so much, because again, it's unrealistic. I want to make sure that I'm picking books up that I actually want to be reading, and to kind of drop this belief of, oh my god, I'm behind on my goal, let me read 3 graphic novels or 3 mangas and let me catch up to this so that I can be ahead, so that I can make the goal. And tied to that one, as a second goal for 2022, is my book goal of the year, which is always a big question. How many books are you planning to read, Mel? How many books do you realistically own that you think you can tackle? I also have seen a lot of people set goals of 52 books, which is 1 book per week, which is also very attainable. I have seen people set goals as high as 200, 300 books, which honestly, fan-freaking-tastic, top reader of the year. I am going to set it again at 75 books. Now, this is a goal that doesn't feel either too small for me or too grand either. 75 is a very small step up from that, where I could do 1 book a week or 2 books a week, or if it's a really, really good week and I'm very, very free and don't have a lot of work, I could read maybe 3 books. So I think it gives me a lot of wiggle room in terms of when, why, and how I read. Now, I will say I set 2021 at 75 books and I am well past that goal. What happened this year with reading was interesting to me because I started again pressuring myself to read, and I started doing so many readathons. I was reading 3, 4, 5 books in 48 hours, which probably will never happen again in terms of how much I stay awake and how many books I'm reading, because it was a very unhealthy time in my life. However, I will say, because this is tied to goal 1, which is be more mindful with my reading, when I look at the ratio of the books that I read and actually loved and would continuously recommend versus the amount of books that I read and wouldn't necessarily recommend, the ratio is very vastly different. I have read close to 170 books, and what has happened here is that out of all of the books that I've read, you guys see my recommendation videos. You guys see me kind of push the same books over and over again because those are the books that I've genuinely loved and that have stuck with me throughout the year. And then there is over 100 books that I've read that I'm just meh towards. They were either books that I personally didn't love and they were, you know, in my opinion, they were bad, or books that were somewhat mediocre, and I would much rather have a really stellar book and read less of those than to read a lot of books and have very sucky books. So I guess just boils down to quality over quantity. Goal number 3 is also kind of subdivided into 2 different goals, and that is buy less books. Now, I don't think that this year my ratio of books read versus book incoming was that crazy. I do think because of the amount of books that I've read this year, it kind of balances it out, especially because I unhaul the books that I don't necessarily love or books that I have lost interest in as the year has progressed. However, I do want to lower the amount of books that I receive/buy next year. There are so many unread books in my library. I have a book cart. It's all full of unread books. I also will have floating shelves in my desk area. You guys will get a video on that also, which I'm very excited about. And so next year, I really do want to focus on reducing the amount of unread books in my library. I will be receiving books here and there from book boxes, or if I receive any ARCs, I'll take it with open arms. But overall, I just really want to work on these books because there are books that are at this point becoming veterans on my TBR. And so if I keep buying books at the rate that I've been buying/receiving books this year, I really won't have anywhere else to put them until I move out. I really want to make sure that I'm reading what I have so that if I don't enjoy some of these, I can kind of get those out, usher them out, and usher new books in at the rate that I am unhauling them. So that is a very big goal that I have. And I am forever thankful of all of the books that you guys have sent my way, both last year and this year. I think I've been incredibly blessed in so many different ways since I've started this. You guys have been one of those biggest blessings, and you guys just continue to be incredible and continue to reach out and asking what books I'd like for my wish list, which I generally never say a specific book because it just feels kind of weird. But you guys have just been absolutely incredible this past year in making sure that you guys send me books here and there that you guys know I'm very excited about, or books that you particularly love that you'd like me to read. And so for that, I'll be forever grateful. But I think part of this goal will also be tied into the fact that I probably will be closing off my wish list for a while at least, because again, I can't be bringing in that many books because I don't have space. And so in terms of books that I'd be personally buying next year, it'll obviously be books that I'm either very excited about and that I know I'll get to like as soon as they get here, some anticipated releases, or books that I need for very specific reading vlogs. I think that will amount to my book buying next year. And again, I think because particularly for the themed reading vlogs, a lot of those books don't end up going that fantastically. I think I'll have a good ratio of books that I'll also be getting rid of as I go. So I think that will balance it out. Tied with that goal, which is kind of like a subsection, is to use the library more, because I have a lot of resources where I can get sort of quote unquote free books. So I can use stuff like Libby, which has audiobooks and ebooks, something like Script, which also has ebooks and audiobooks. And Amazon Prime also has this section, if you guys didn't know, it's called Prime Reading. And that is almost like a library subsection if you have Prime, where you can check out, I think it's 5 books at a time. And once you finish those, you can return them and keep borrowing books. So it's almost like a library system. And so I really want to take more advantage of that next year, because it's really made my job a lot easier at not buying books for the second half of the year. And I really want to make sure that I'm exercising that power in 2022. Also for 2022, I want to make sure that I am passing on books that I didn't love. Now, at the beginning of the year, I didn't want to let go of anything, whether it's because it was gifted to me, because a publishing house sent it to me, because I thought at one point I I would be using it for videos and I'd be holding up the book. And I've kind of let go of that belief in so many different ways, because I'm like, okay, Mel, if you gave a book 1 or 2 stars, or if you gave it 3 stars, but you know it's not really doing anything or adding anything to your personal library, you can pass it on to somebody who's actually probably going to have a better experience than you did, and they can read it, and maybe if they didn't love it, keep passing it on. And I think that's also such a beautiful gesture. So I have been getting better at that at the second half of the year. I did a really big on haul once I rearranged my shelves, and I gave away a bunch of books to just friends and family, and if they didn't want any of the books that they received, they kept passing it on. And that's the part of book gifting, book giving, that I really love, is the fact that it'll be making its way to the right hands. And so I want to keep doing that next year, making sure that if I rated a book between 1 and 3 stars, maybe not give all of them away depending on if I want to keep it or not for whatever reason. But if I think they're not adding anything to my personal library, or if I didn't particularly enjoy them and I think they're taking up space for a book that I'd personally love, I'll just pass it along to a friend, family member, or donate them to whatever cause I can find here in Panama. And I think that's going to also make the space a lot better for me. And I think it's just a beautiful gesture that maybe for a person who's trying to look for a book that's not available here, because book buying here in Panama is actually quite difficult. We don't have libraries, and our bookshops are always, for the most part, not filled up with newer releases. They constantly just have older books, and they kind of look beaten battered, but they're being sold at a much higher price than they are in other places. And so I think that'll also be a good help for people who want to read or love to read, or that will help propel them into reading. I just kind of want to share that joy, albeit with books that I didn't particularly love, but you never know. Maybe those people will love them and they will keep them and continue to build their own libraries. So that is something that I want to work on a lot more in 2022. Goal number 5 for me is an interesting one. So this is going to be no more TBRs. So as a backstory, I've always been a mood reader, and I think mostly I developed myself, or it developed me, as a mood reader, because again, book buying here in Panama is very difficult. So I could only really buy what my parents were bringing me once they got to travel, what my friends got to bring me when they were traveling, what I got to buy myself when I had the privilege of traveling. And so I could only really afford to read the books that I had in hand. And so now I tried the TBR approach for the majority, if not the entirety really, of 2021 and the latter half of 2020 as well. What I found myself doing a lot was including books in TBRs that I wasn't really looking forward to reading, but I was just trying to fill in certain voids to make sure that I had some sort of plan. Found myself reading 1 or 2 of those books, maybe 3 or 4 if a miracle, never more than 5. There was only one time where I actually read the entirety of my TBR. It never happened again. And then I just found myself mood reading the rest, whether it was for readathons or just as an everyday basis sort of reading. And so I definitely will take a step back from TBRs, and maybe we'll throw a TBR here and there if I need them. For next year, I am hoping to retake writing classes and also English Lit classes through certificate courses, which I absolutely loved. That's what I was doing as I was joining BookTube last year. And so I definitely want to retake those classes. They were a lot of fun. I got to talk to a lot of people, and it was just a really cool experience. And I don't know how much reading I'll have to do for those. Of course, I'll be reading articles and, you know, documents and stuff. I don't know how much actual books I'll be reading. And so if it ever becomes a lot and I actually will have to manage my reading a little bit better, then a TBR will go up, because I'll obviously need the structure. So I think TBRs will only go up when I need that sense of organization. The other option that I was thinking that I still haven't quite finalized myself, since obviously seasons don't exist here. We only have winter, which is the majority of the year, and then summer, which is like 3 to 4 months. But what I was thinking is I could either do seasonal TBRs, which are a great way to do them, because then I can span them through 2 to 3 to 4 months, or I can just do quarterly TBRs. That way I can set an amount of books that I want to get through in the next 3 months, and I can still do a plan my TBR with me format that I used the last 2 or 3 times, I believe, that I did a TBR. That way it feels a lot more relaxed and it feels a lot more achievable that way, because I'll be able to actually spread out the books that I want to read in a variety of different months versus just one. So I feel that approach feels a lot more attainable to me. The next subject at hand is readathons, which is a big subject here on the channel. Now, if you've been here for a while, if you've actually been here since my reading goals video of 2021, you would have been able to see that I set for myself a goal of doing at least 1 monthly readathon. Not only are they incredibly fun, I get to spend time with you guys, read with you guys, but it was also a really nice way to achieve my reading goals for this year. Now, readathons started out as incredibly fun, and I won't say that at any point they weren't fun, because they really were. Again, it was quality time with you guys. However, they became more of a task and an expectation at one point, points than they were fun. And it had a variety of different reasons as to why it became that particular thing. Because it had so many tech admin elements behind it, and they were happening every single month with new people coming in every single month, they started becoming very stressful weekends where we just wanted to make sure that everything was running smoothly. And I just wanted to make sure that everybody had access to the Discord, that everybody got to be a part of this to the best of our capacity, to our ability. However, again, they got really chaotic and it became a thing where I was more so in tune with the admin side of it and making sure that everything was running smoothly versus the actual reading part of it. And again, it became more of a task. And again, it was a very unhealthy time in my life where I was not only sleeping very little throughout the week because I wanted to get videos out in a timely manner and because of everything else that I was doing at the time and really pushing myself to the max and not sleeping or not eating or eating too much and just focusing on reading and just focusing again on everything running smoothly, I kind of lost sight of the fun part of it, which is obviously why I've kind of cut back on the readathon side of it. And it is for that reason that monthly readathons won't be happening. However, do not fret, because one of my patrons actually came up with a really nice idea. I was trying to figure out exactly what format I could be using, if once every 2 months or a monthly readathon or something that felt equally balanced as it would fun to me in particular. And shout out to Ash, who was one of my patrons, because she again illuminated me in a way that I hadn't really thought of, and she said quarterly readathons, and that's actually perfect. One readathon every 4 months amounts to 3 readathons a year, 3 weekends of just straight up reading where we can all have fun, chat on sprints, and read books all together. And I think that will take the pressure away from having monthly readathons. Don't worry, I'll give you all of the announcements probably at the beginning of the month that it's happening so that you guys have plenty of time to prepare. If you need to take the weekend off, you could also do that. So I'll make sure to give you guys ample time to plan around it because I know how much you guys love readathons. So again, all info will go up accordingly. And I will say, if you guys want more of that monthly readathon vibe, I do host monthly readathons on my Patreon, and it is the most chill time. Like, don't think that we stay up literally all night every single day. It is the most chill thing ever. We focus everything around self-care. We literally do face masks and drink wine and watch movies together. Obviously we have sprints, but it's a much more chill time, and we make sure to prioritize that self-care aspect of it, which when we do quarterly readathons will probably also be my focus so that they don't ever become very stressful. But if you guys do want that option, again, we do them on Patreon once a month. It is always linked down below in case you guys want to join us, but also no pressure. They'll be happening every 4 months. Another really interesting one is readalongs. Now, I think this year was very formative for me. I kind of discovered more and more what type of reader I am. And I discovered that I have a lot of issues finishing series. I start them, I fall in love with them, then I don't finish them. And it's become a really big part of my 2021. And I hate every second of it. I set up a bunch of series that I wanted to start and finish, and a lot of them just kind of ended up in limbo, and then nothing really happened. Whether they weren't started or they weren't finished, where I've made progress, but never really in either of those two realms. And that is the reason why I think starting 2022, I'll be doing more consistent read-alongs. Now, if you guys haven't watched the announcement video, I'll leave it linked down below. But for the first read-along of the year, I did announce the Greenbone Saga along, where we're going to be reading the entirety of the Greenbone trilogy, which is Jade City, Jade War, and then Jade Legacy. That will take us 3 months to complete. There will be a live show at the end of every month for each corresponding read, and I think that's a perfect way to not only start and finish series, but to also maybe motivate you guys to pick up books that you were either planning on picking up, and maybe you guys struggle with the same things I struggle with in terms of finishing series, or books that you guys weren't necessarily planning on reading. And what I was thinking is that once we finish the Greenbone Saga along, I'll do a little scout session just like I did last time, ask you guys either here or over on Instagram what series you'd like to read along, and then we can plan the next installment, and they'll probably start either a month or 2 after this one's over, so on and so forth. Some series will be longer, some series will be shorter, but I think it'll be a really, really nice way to, again, read things all together as a community and just have a lot of fun together, which is honestly the bulk of what I want for 2022. I just want everything to be fun and just lighthearted and heartwarming and a really good time for all of us. And I think we should all kind of strive for that, is for reading to always be fun, never feel stressful, never feel like a task. And so I definitely think that will be a really, really good help towards finishing series. And that way we can all kind of mood read, but plan read at the same time, if that makes sense. Let me know down below what you guys think about that one, because that will obviously depend on you guys' reception, if you guys would like to do that. But personally myself, I think it'll be a really nice way to, again, get get through some series together. We're nearing the end. We only have 3 more goals for 2022. And the next one, which is number 8, is actually read BookBox books. Now, this is an interesting discussion because a lot of us receive Illumicrate boxes, Owlcrate boxes, Fairyloot boxes, Bookish boxes. There are so many subscription boxes nowadays that it is a lot for a lot of us. And a lot of the time we receive books that we're kind of iffy about, some books that we're really excited about, and some books that we just don't end up picking up at all. Now, Ash, also my Patreon, who apparently is just becoming my brain, but she came up with this really interesting idea that I absolutely love. When I look at the ratio of books unboxed versus books actually read, it's very sad. It's like very, very sad. But she came up with this really cool idea that I actually had never thought of, but I really, really love, where I unbox the book in a video, whether it's 1 box or 2 boxes or 3 boxes. And so I unbox all of them, show you guys the items, and then I turn it into a reading vlog where I actually read the books. And so it'll be almost similar to the format of a weekly reading vlog, but only emphasizing those BookBox books. And I think that'll be a great incentive for me to actually read the books, get through them, bring you guys more reviews, and tell you if they're actually good, if they're not good, if they're somewhere in the middle. I think it'll be a really, really nice way to get through those. I have more behavioral goals, which I don't know if I set last year. I think I had 1 or 2 of those. 1 is what I can remember, maybe 2, stretching it. The very first one is to build a reading routine. Now, I go through periods of time with reading. There's weeks where I eat books up, there's weeks where I don't read at all. That's completely fine. But I find the most rewarding weeks for me are the ones that actually have structure and that I'm not just floating around the week waiting for things to happen. I flash back to this one video that I did that, if you guys haven't watched it, it's literally one of my favorite videos that I've ever made, which was swapping screen time for reading time. The results were really interesting in that video. A little bit of a spoiler alert, maybe, where my screen time really dropped. My productivity levels really rose up, and I actually got a lot of reading done. And that part to me was super interesting. So I did it for that week. I continued to kind of do it after that experiment, and then I stopped doing it. But it was basically me reading right before I made myself breakfast. I didn't really look at my computer or my phone or anything, and I dedicated a part of my morning, whether it was an hour or 2, to just sit down with a coffee, with a chai latte, with tea, and just read. Not only does it put me in a fantastic mood, but it also, again, allows for some me time before I even consider interacting with the outside world, looking at emails, doing anything work related. So I think that's a really nice way to start out my day very balanced. And then at the end of the day, before I actually go to bed, to also read. I am mostly exhausted at the end of my days, and it's because I stretch out work a lot. There's some days that are very empty, then there's days that are very filled with work. And so I'm making it a big thing, and again, that's why I say it's more behavioral, because I just want to make sure that I'm getting work done when I need to be getting it done, that I'm not stretching it out all the way to 10, 11 p.m. so that then I can, let's say, have dinner and then dedicate a little bit of time towards reading. Maybe not necessarily a full hour, maybe not necessarily a full 2 hours, but just a little bit here and there throughout my day so that I can actually, again, create a reading routine for every single day. And then when I have more time, I can squeeze in more reading. But that's honestly one of my biggest goals for 2022, because I feel I did that towards the beginning of the year, and I definitely did that in 2020, and I've just lost sight of that as 2021 has continued. And I really want to get back into the rhythm of it, because when I think back when I used to have that routine, those were some of my most productive days, and days where I actually felt really, really good with the amount of things that I was doing or not doing, but it just felt very balanced. And those are all of the goals that I have for you guys today. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to smash that like button down below, and also let me know down below what are your goals for 2022, whether it's reading, life, lifestyle, whatever it is. Let me know all of those down below so that we can chat all things goals, planning, organization for next year. I am always super interested to see what other people's goals are, because again, I feel like we can kind of feed off each other and kind of grab and choose and move however we see fit, because sometimes we can't really think of stuff ourselves, and so as a collective, more brains than one work better. If you reached the end of the video, let's leave the open book emoji. I feel like it just leaves a world of possibilities and opportunities and a page to be flipped for 2022. Not to get cheesy, but to get cheesy. Don't forget to subscribe down below if you haven't done so already. I am constantly uploading videos that I'm sure you do not want to miss. And if you want to support the channel further, I do have a Patreon. We call ourselves the Citadel, and there is a bunch of exclusive stuff happening over over there that I know you guys would absolutely love. So if you want to support the channel further, join us and have a fun time. That is always linked down below alongside all of my social medias. And yes, I love you guys so much, and I shall see you on the next one. Bye guys.